ENT 110 students, welcome back. It looks like I have most of the folks' midterms in, if not all, and most of the homework has been turned in. I will get the homework updated this afternoon so that you can look in your homework folder and see if you are missing any homework. It is because I do not have it, including this last week, week 4. The other thing is the midterm they won't be graded until, they have to be graded by the end of the week because I need to turn in midterm grades for the course to the registrar's office by Saturday. So the midterms will be graded by the end of the week. However, if you look in the feedback box, if I received your midterm and it was on time, it should say in the feedback box that I received it. So I will go through and double check all of those today. So by this evening, the homework and the midterm received in the feedback area will be up on Blackboard so that you can check that. And if you're having any issues with Blackboard, let me know. If you have an issue with your grade or you think you turned something in and it wasn't up there or it says you're missing it still, let me know. That's a good possibility. I try to be perfect, but it is hard, as most of you know. As all of you know, it just doesn't happen, right? And so that is, make sure any old work that you have or that you're missing, you get into me for at least for partial credit. Now, this week, in week 5, we are entering a couple new chapters. And so if you go onto Blackboard, just pulling up my own Blackboard here, you will see that we are covering 2 new chapters this week. So I realize the text is very exhaustive when it comes to certain items. So and some of you are not ready to start your own business, right? And this book is really written for not only the student learner and from a theoretical standpoint or philosophical standpoint, but also from a practical standpoint. And so this next section that talks about entrepreneurial finance and accounting strategies, special funding strategies, 9.2, that's 9.2 is going to be of specific importance to you, just really talking about some of the latest trends out there as to how you can get funding. It's not just from a bank or from a grandparent or, the more traditional ways. There are some new ways folks are winning, we'll say, at starting up their own business. And there's accounting basics for entrepreneurs. Some of you may have taken accounting courses. You may have taken them here, other schools. You may have worked in accounting, payroll. You may have some sense of accounting. Some of you may have no sense of, debits and credits, assets, liabilities, things like that. And that's okay, right? Remember, this course is getting you acquainted with several aspects of entrepreneurship and also owning a business or running a business, working for a business. You're going to need to know a lot of these things like accounting basics. So just try to familiarize yourself. And if you have questions, you can always reach out to me. And always the Google helps too if you have a specific question relating to accounting, because I realize some of you, as much as I would like to have an accounting course come as a prerequisite for this course, it does not, right? And then developing a financial statement for a startup and coming up with some projections. Again, I know some of you are not that familiar with financial statements. You don't necessarily plan on starting a business, but just understanding some of the ideas behind maybe a business you work for or you want to work for, some of the things that they go through or went through as a startup to get off the ground, right? So we're looking at this more of a theoretical situation. Some of you actually may have your own business or be starting a business. So this may be practical information for you. But for those of you that are not starting a business right today or in the short term or near future, just getting acquainted with the business world and how startups, some of the financial hurdles they come across and how they actually come up with a plan financially, how are they going to get money to start up. So that is 9.4, entrepreneurial finance and accounting. And I have a few questions in the homework. The homework questions it's a Word doc, chapters 9 and 10. So that's chapter 9. Chapter 10, launch for growth to success. So really coming up with how do you start a business, right? How do you launch your business? So say you have this great idea, how do you get it off the ground? And so chapter 10 really starts to talk about, what is considered a lean startup or starting up from, you don't have to have everything in order to start up, right? You just need to have a few basics, almost like an outline, which is what we are going to do for our project here. We are going to have a business plan outline, right? There's a whole course here at EC3 that is on building a business plan. In this course, we just get familiar with what a business plan is, and then we write an outline, right? I also have you put a PowerPoint with that outline, but we write an outline kind of highlighting the basic points of a business plan in line with an idea that we have. Now, this idea does not have to be the end all be all, right? And you may be thinking, well, I don't know if I want to start a business. It's okay. You're going to have an idea, and we'll talk more about this next week. You're going to come up with an idea if you don't already have an idea. And you can even piggyback off something in the discussion that you've seen, right? Or in the text, something that might work for Erie, or that one of the entrepreneurs that you read about in the discussion board that's for this week's discussion, someone else's interview, right? An idea they have, maybe you have something similar. Maybe you have something very specific to your current workplace or your current family needs, whatever it might be. You're going to come up with an idea, and we're going to use that as a springboard for a business plan outline, right? So it's not an excessive, it's like a 1-2 page outline of your idea and some other components, right? But we'll talk a little bit more about that next week. There are a few exhaustive business plan docs in the course specific resources. So if you're interested in looking at those and getting a little bit of a jump start and thinking about some of the key components of a business plan. But our discussion number 4 will be really posting your idea and a few items that go along with your idea. That will be next week's work. All right, so this week, Chapter 10, Launch for Growth to Success, talking about, if you have small failures, how you learn from those failures when you're starting a business, some of the truths behind business ownership, 10.3, managing, following, and adjusting the initial plan. Now, when you come up with a plan, what can happen with a plan? We all have plans, right? A plan for today, a plan for this week, a plan for this year. But what happens? Oftentimes, that it doesn't unfold how we think it will, right? There are a lot of factors in daily life. And so how do we pivot, right? So this chapter really talks about pivoting and kind of taking your business in a new direction. Businesses had to do a lot of pivoting. A lot of different businesses pivoted when COVID hit, right? And we have some local examples of businesses that changed kind of their overall model. So sometimes a business will come to fruition, right? And it's working great and they have a business plan. And then a year later, they realize they need to alter that plan a bit to serve a wider market or to serve a different market than they're trying to attract. And so that's how do you pivot, right? Businesses that are successful are businesses that are able to pivot. And small businesses are able to pivot a lot more easily than larger businesses, right? If you think of them as a giant boat, a giant freighter, it's a lot for it to turn. But a small boat can turn pretty quickly, right? And so thinking about small businesses are often more agile and adjust more quickly than larger businesses. Actually, they always do because they're able to, their business is small, they can redirect, right? And so thinking about that, that is Chapter 10. That gets us ready for when we get into Chapter 11 next week, we start talking about the idea of a business plan, right? It's not just, I have an idea. You actually write down a whole outline of a plan. We're going to do that for this class. Just have that outline put together. But that, again, is for next week. There is a discussion post this week as well. So you have, let's see, I have a video, How to Create a Company, Elon Musk's 5 Rules. So whether you like Elon Musk or you don't like Elon Musk is not relevant, right? The idea is that from an objective standpoint, he was able to start a business from scratch, right? And what are some of the key components of things that he thinks or he mentions are important about how you're successful when you start a business, right? And so there's a short video there, so take a look at that video link. It kind of ties more in with Chapter 10, but it really is for the whole entire course. So you have Chapter 9 and 10 to read from the text. You have the PowerPoints to review. I have homework questions there. I believe I have 13. I think I have 6 from Chapter 9 and 7 from Chapter 10. Short answer questions on a doc. Just email that back to me before next Monday night. And then, hold on. And then I also have a discussion post this week. The discussion post is the second component of the discussion regarding your entrepreneur, right? So a lot of you had great interviews with entrepreneurs, very interesting, right? We have a large class, 20, I think we're still at 24. And so there should be multiple posts for you to read from discussion number 2. So that was due technically by last night. And so you go through some of those and find one that seems particularly interesting to you. And so you're going to choose one from the discussion number 2, and your discussion number 3 is going to be based on that entrepreneur. So what you're going to do is you are going to comment. So say we have, who could we pick from our class? I'll just say we have Sally. Sally from our class posted about an entrepreneur that started a yoga business here in Erie, and talked to that business owner and listed a bunch of different things that business owner, hurdles they found, what gave them the idea, all those different components, all those different letters, right? And so Sally's post is about her entrepreneur. And you particularly are into yoga. And so you find that post very interesting. And so what you're going to do in this week's discussion board, you are going to reference Sally, and you are going to reference her entrepreneur. And then you're going to talk about, and you're going to reference what the entrepreneur, what business they started, and just give us in minimum 2 to 3 sentences, your thoughts on that entrepreneur. So you're going to reflect on an entrepreneur from last week's discussion board. So pick a student in the class, the entrepreneur, say the student and the entrepreneur, and then talk a little bit about the interview and the entrepreneur's experience and why it's interesting to you. So that is for this week's discussion. So again, you're going to go through last week's discussion board to find an entrepreneur that you're going to talk about in this week's discussion board. So does that make sense? And if for some reason you are confused or you need more clarification or anything, please reach out to me. 814-490-6473 is the text. crobertson@ec3pa.org is the email. So again, discussion 3 will be in this discussion 3 under week 5. However, it references last week's discussion board. Just want to make sure. If you put it in last week's discussion board, I won't see it. So it needs to be a new discussion post in this week's discussion, but it's reflecting on last week's entrepreneurs. You're going to pick one and talk about it in this week's discussion board. Again, I will try to have, by this afternoon, this evening, I will make sure that the homework is up to date and that I at least have your received for your midterm in the feedback box. Let me think, are there any other questions? I think that is it for this video, but I will circle back around on Friday and let you know how the grades are going for the term. You kind of know your grades. I should have the midterm grades up Friday midday at the latest, and so you can check on your grade for the midterm exam, and you should know your other grades as they are up. The discussion post grade will be up, and the homework grades will all be up through week 4. So hopefully you're having a wonderful day, and if there's anything I forgot, I will come back around and send another email or a short video. So have a wonderful afternoon, and we are into week 5.